We are now live. Oh, where did that go? There it is. So many windows to do all of this. There we are. Coffee is on the go. So because I'm still working on the on reducing my dependencies on different addictions, I will be taking a moment to retrieve coffee somewhere through this. All right. We're going to start by looking at tech. Amazon still consolidating and finding the upper range of this zone here. In fact, we can see that there's been a narrowing of that over the past week or so, couple weeks. A narrowing of that range. I'm going to bring it up to this top there. Okay. Yeah, that's about right. Oracle still staying low here as well. In fact, we have an expansion where this low here just got beat out. I gotta remember. No, it's not currencies. This is stocks. So there's going to be a little bit more we have to have a little bit more forgiveness and leniency on these ranges. So that is currently there. Let's go to Google. This actually went down quite a bit last week. It has seeming to recovered, but in order for us to know that it's going to continue going up, we need to see that price action get back above this trend line, find some support from that range there. Right now, I would say that within the next few days, we'll likely know whether or not we're going to be testing this range down here. That's a significant drop, indicating a loss. And so it very well may continue down this way, simply because, again, technical analysis, that price action, and it wouldn't really break market structure if it came down to here. It just would be a pretty big loss for those that are going along on it. Palantir showing different price action simply because it last week found support off that $135 range. Audrey Lynn joined us. Nvidia still really just consolidating, hasn't really moved since August of 2025. There's a little bit of a press upwards there in October. This dip down below really didn't break market structure either. And we can see, though, that there is a great potentiality for it to come back to these old highs from 2024, simply because that would be a strong support for it to continue going up. And it also depends on where things go with this whole war. Oh, I'm not going to get started on that. I just finished reading some sacred words, and I'm kind of not in the mood to do market analysis simply because of it's purifying. Those words are purifying. But here we go. Nike still getting some pressure from this downward trend. It did a little bit of an attempt. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see. There was an attempt to get above that zone, but it dipped right back underneath, or not zone, above that trend line. And it dipped right back underneath and has been struggling since to re-challenge that. Makes sense, though. The Japanese economy, we've seen that rising inflation where it's losing value against the dollar. Also, with the oil rather, crude oil is on the world trade index is rising as well. And so that is going to create a lot of despair within this market. So as oil goes up, we can expect the Japanese markets to depreciate, go down further, and they will be continuing their printing efforts to prop things up and prevent a mass prevent the citizens' unrest. US 30 struggling to get back above. You can see that, coming down from the lows at 44,000, attempting these highs at 46.8, but it's not doing so well there. Now, again, it's a little bit early to tell if it's able to get a leg back up again. We might see it bounce off of 46 on its way up. But that it's undetermined at this time. We do see an expansion of this. So even though we didn't get above this, the 46.9, this dip going down created a lower low. Coming back up, this shows strength coming up as high as it did, going above the previous high. This one here, we're not really counting that. That's a lot of volatility that occurred right here. So we're going to be calling that green line that next marker that we got to get above. Silver, look at how those lines just they just create this. It's almost like they create this energy buildup as it consolidates tighter and tighter. Not much to report there, but the higher high and higher low is indicative of continuation, especially since we know what's going on with the supplies. More and more supply issues with silver. So
since I'm new to this, can you go back to that for a sec?
Yeah.
What happens? Like I see what those, okay, that's leading to a point. Did you call that consolidating, or I can't remember what you just called that just now? What happens at that point? I mean, I'm not asking you to predict the future, but with this graph, is there some understanding of what comes out of that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because I don't know if these lines, if that's just mapping like where it's been, or if that is also something that we pay attention to, how it's going forward. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's that comes to a point and then it goes back out again. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. In a technical analysis, what we typically do is that we use these lines to get an idea of when things break out of that consolidation and how far will that breakout lead us. Those are the two things that we can get simply by looking at this. I'll show you how we do that. You're right. This consolidation where the highs and the lows are narrowing in on each other, that ends up becoming like an energy buildup. And as that energy builds, when it gets to that point, and it might not get right to the point, but when it breaks out, like out of this kind of a pattern, we normally expect the price action to move as far as the opening of the consolidation. So this opening here results in that is a $32 differential. So when that energy buildup finally comes to that point, it will likely move $32-ish in the next impulse, in the next rise. Now again, it's a 60% chance. It's not science. It's simply we project that 60% of the time this type of movement occurs. Knowing that we have supply issues.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh,
first?
yeah.
So that line is coming off of, you can't see what I'm pointing to, but it's coming off of that, where you just made the circle.
Yep.
Is it
right
also
here.
coming off of that higher peak above it, or does that not get counted? Do you know what I mean? Because it looks like it's kind of in line. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Now, that's true. That's true. However, we recognize that this here,
Yeah,
this downward motion, this whole area here,
yeah.
oops, I used the wrong, this one here. This here got beat out by this drop. So this
Oh,
distance here from here to here, we're not going to count that simply because this
okay.
movement here was more. So we go just based off of this old trend line,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that the energy buildup began from here
Okay.
to this line here.
Okay.
So
So
then
it's
we'd
more
follow.
coincidental that it is also lining up with that higher peak. It's not, you're not counting that anymore, but that's, there it is.
Yep, it's there. And on a macro level, so what you're bringing up is important. On a macro level, this distance may be the next impulse. But I'm thinking that that's going to be after a few waves because this is just such a huge distance.
And what
It could
time
very
span
well.
are we looking at here? Are we, is this a week, a month, a year? What is,
Uh, this is on the 4 hour chart going back.
oh,
So this is present right now, and this goes
okay.
back this area here. I don't think we'll ever see these prices again. But this
Okay.
area here is from November.
Okay. So if we're still wanting to get more in, it would be good to do it now-ish.
Yes, I would say it's on sale.
Okay.
Yep. The only thing that would make this go down would be if the war efforts encourage international investors to put money into the US.
Oh,
Yeah.
And the
When
way in which the US is going right now, that would be a very foolish investment.
oh yeah. The US is not doing well in this war. The propaganda machine makes things look pretty good, but yeah, Audrey Lynn, do you want to speak a little bit on what you saw from Professor G's his analysis?
Oh yeah. I don't recall the date in which this occurred. So today's Friday. It must have been Wednesday, where uh, uh, Iranians did a very coordinated, very specific attack against the Israeli air defense capabilities and took out 40 of these the most specialized airplanes, attack airplanes on the planet. I mean, the US doesn't even have this kind of technology. And the Iranians took out 40 of them with uh, solid fuel ballistic missiles. And the reason why that's interesting is that the solid ballistic missiles, they don't require fueling like the liquid ones do. So they can be deployed very, very quickly, where the liquid ones take time, and their the flame on ignition is much, much greater than liquid fuel. Liquid fuel is very obvious, like a flash of light, where the solid is much dimmer. And they were able, so the Iranians were able to take out 40 of these planes within a half an hour. And they did it at the absolutely right and perfect time, having collected intel probably over decades of the timing in which so it happened when the Israelis were doing a shift change, essentially, where the manpower was the lowest, the tracking times were the lowest. They didn't expect it at all, even though the US had a GPS blocking blanket over the area for several weeks now. This defense system didn't rely on GPS. They knew exactly where they needed to go. They didn't take out anything other than those airplanes. They didn't touch infrastructure. They didn't touch the air, the runways. They targeted exactly what they wanted, and they have made it crystal clear that they will be targeting the homes of the generals and the people in charge. And it doesn't matter from which country they are in that area, they will be taking them out. So embassies and private homes, all this stuff that are attached to the military complex, they're under threat. Yeah, so the U.S. is not doing well. They are not doing well at all. They've lost billions, if not trillions, in this 30-day war.
Mm-hmm.
But such a good use of taxpayer dollars, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Of course, there's so many people that are being, killed, not fed. Oh, yes, displaced, not housed.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this information, Audrey Lynn?
I'll post I don't know if I already did, but if I haven't, I will post the recording. His name is Professor Xi, and Paul introduced me to him 6 months, maybe a year ago. Fascinating information. He's a teacher. He works as a teacher in Beijing, and has a very, very different perspective on the world. And he teaches his students critical thinking through history and uses just the facts about what history is. And he has been criticized for not commenting on the Chinese regime and how China is involved in all of this. And he's been very clear. He says, like, I have 3 small children. I live in China. I'd like to continue living. So, that's why he doesn't comment on China. But again, if I haven't posted it already in the Next Gen Merchants Telegram, I will.
Awesome.
It's about a 45-minute listen or watch.
Yeah, and an important note about this is that the Iranian infrastructure that is being leveraged to take out these targets is considerably cheap compared to the technology that is actually being decimated. Like the leverage that the Iranians have over their opponent is it's unfathomable, because the technology simply has advanced so much, and the American military complex, industrial complex, has not maintained their innovation. Yeah, they're incredible, but it's old.
And it's relying on the fact that might is right, and that the U.S. has this strength and capacity. They've gotten lazy.
Mm-hmm.
They've been lazy for a long time. And the other thing to remember is that the Iranian people's government, populace, has been under sanction for how long? 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had to learn how to innovate with what they have. That's incredible. That's absolutely amazing. Where the rest of the cohort in that area have been relying on U.S. strength and technology instead of figuring things out for themselves. And so now Iran is in that position of being able to, they dominate the area. Mm-hmm. And all of the players in that arena are reevaluating their security and their position with Iran.
You made a comment about how long they've been, I can't remember what word you used, but like planning.
Yeah.
And I just read an article last night by, I don't know how to say her name, Renette. Do you know who I mean? Renette, she was a former council person, or anyway. She does the Foghorn Express on Substack, and she was talking about that something just got passed that would bring the conscription in the U.S. for ages 17 with parental consent to 42. And her point was like, nobody's going to be signing up voluntarily for this war. And her point was just like yours. She's saying they have, as an army and as people, been focused, like knowing this is coming, knowing they're on the list, and planning for it for 25 years. So again, the advantages. So you're talking about the kind of the more weapons and mechanical and stuff, but also the people, like, and we have not been, you know, and they have this area to concentrate on, and we have, you know, the whole world that we're trying to mess with, right?
Well, and they have been under war for how long? Those people are likely super hard, just as a general populace, super hard. Where we in the North America, I can't get my latte. What?
Yeah.
Right? And for people in those age, like when I think of conscription, I think of the Ukraine and how they conscripted everybody, men and women, into the fight. And if the Americans aren't smart, I mean, I certainly hope they are, but that all of a sudden I got a terminal case of COVID or, you know, something, because nope.
Well, that's the other point with what we've gone through in these years. People are very clear that people that would even be eligible for the military is shrinking. Like, people aren't healthy enough to be in the military, which, you know, I don't necessarily see as a bad thing, but
Yeah.
on a world level, it's different. But on a human level, it's like, yeah, let's not have people go into the military. But I realize that makes for some interesting. Anyway, I will mute myself. Carry on.
This is what you bring up is a good point, though, Zoa. The military is not equipped. The U.S. military is not equipped. They have been programming their personnel for decades to be less, to not be heroic. They have been diluting the forces, and arguably for even longer than that. Simply by this whole notion of having dominance, right? Oh, we're the best in the world, right? It's no different. We see the same thing. Like the saying is that sports, you know, the arenas of hockey, football, basketball, all of them, they suffer the same symptom, right? When they're on a winning streak, they get obliterated because they get complacent. They think that they're undefeated, right? Undefeatable. And that mentality is exactly what has occurred with the states. And it's important to note that the reason why the states have had dominance in the past was because they had the proxy control over that region via Israel. That's been their leverage, right? In the early 70s, when they depegged from the dollar, or they depegged from gold standard, they went to an oil standard. Most people don't realize that. The only reason America had the dominance that it had economically and militarily was because they negotiated a 50-year contract on $4 a barrel out of the Middle East. And their pledge of supplying all of the military aid necessary to secure the region was accepted, again by proxy, through Saudi Arabia. This is when we saw the terror regimes, or the terrorists that took over Iran back in the 70s to help stifle their dominance. You know, it was only going to be a matter of time before the underdog became the overdog. And we saw that especially manifest itself in 2014, where Iran was granted a $600 billion US, the valuation was $600 billion of energy contracts between Russia and China the two of those two superpowers said to Iran, "You help us finish off and secure the Silk Road project. You help us do that, and we'll make sure that you are taken care of for the next 10 years in energy contracts valued at $600 billion." And Iran said, "We agree. However, we would prefer that that contract be paid in gold." And that is when the latest campaign to demonize and demonize Iran really took off. But that is what they used to bolster their forces for this day. Like, everybody knew that that 50-year contract would end. And the only people who refused to pay attention to that were, unfortunately, the Americans. And so they did absolutely nothing, being, that same symptom of complacency. They did absolutely nothing to listen and in fact, they did less than nothing, really, because the heralds, people like us, were trying to communicate to them, look, your dollar is going bye-bye because it is entirely based off of a fraudulent contract that is only supported by the ongoing destabilization of the area through the CIA initiatives of these various terrorist groups. Like, ISIS was born from the CIA. Hezbollah was born out of the CIA. All of these different groups have originated from the intentional destabilization of the zone to justify the ongoing military presence, because that's how they were able to secure that contract. In 2022, Biden was railed against for abandoning the military. No. All of those resources were under contract in the Middle East, and he had zero obligation to bring them back. Zero. And it was up to the American people to pay attention. And they simply didn't, right? And so then, now they are the underdog, and rightfully so, because now that region is actually becoming more stable. You know that Iran, what was it, Audrey Lynn? I think you brought it up. Whether that was Big Lano or Professor G, I can't recall. She's not even. Oh, you know what? She's probably getting coffee ready. Yeah, way more important things. Be as you were. But I believe that you were talking about. Where was I going with that? Oh, yes. Was what was this related to? Not about the destabilization. Where was I? See, I got sidetracked by coffee. About the dollar, the collapse of that.
Go back to the recording.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Well, what this all comes to mind is actually Nostradamus, and how Nostradamus made a prediction a billion years ago about how essentially in the Middle East there will be a conflict in between the eagle and the sickle, and if I'm remembering all the metaphors, but that the eagle would lose. And I see this very clearly as the beginning of the completion of that prophecy.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what that was, what it was, but that is so true. I remember you sharing with me about that months ago, or maybe it was even longer than, like, a year ago. But that Iran is certainly, bringing stability back. Oh, that was something to do with it. Oh yeah, things are going back to the way it should be, really, when it comes down to it. The presence of the United States in the Middle East is being eradicated. And the propaganda that we're seeing coming out of America right now is really only for the, I would say, for the soothing of the Israelis. It's not even for America anymore. It's not even like Americans are responding. Do you know that Trump showed up to some sporting event there about a month ago? He showed up to some sporting event and he was booed. He was booed out like he was overpowered over the loudspeakers by the boos. So the propaganda that we're seeing isn't even for America anymore. There is nothing about America that is America first. And rightfully so.
Well, and in addition to my point was that they've also compromised the health of the people that are age eligible or whatever for the military.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Where I was seeing that, but it's like we have no, and including forced injections in the military, people that were in the military.
Yep. Yep. What a great
Clearly something
conversation.
going on that's bigger than any particular country.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, the charade needs to be upheld. Right? The charade needs to be upheld. And let's be honest, Iran is doing the same thing against their people, propagandizing them, saying we're saving the world from America. Right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why there's so much division, where, I see it all the time in on X especially. The algorithm pushes the division, in that when Iran says something like where they show, or rather in Iran, there's footage of people who are gathering saying death to America. But you think, and then Americans are like, see, they hate us. We need to destroy them. And it's like, no, 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 no. The America that they know is the aggressor. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Audrey Lynn, and I heard the blender, so I know that bulletproof coffee is coming to fruition. It's being manifested as we speak through her creative energy. And so see, I lost my train of thought again. No, the aggressor, Iran, I think it's 250 years they have not initiated violence. They have not initiated. And then, I remember in 2017 when I was doing presentations on gold and silver and encouraging people to start investing, because back then it was like $1,500. Gold was. And I remember telling people, showing people a meme, and it had a map, and there's Iran, and it had these drop like Google pins everywhere, all around Iran. And the meme was, look at how aggressive Iran is, how they place their country, right in the middle of all the American bases. And was that, Audrey Lynn, what were the details on that? Was it 250 years or something like that? That Iran has not initiated violence?
Yeah, no, they have been incredibly peaceful
Yeah.
and seeking peace at many points and junctures, and yet still being demonized. So I'm curious as to what is that relationship in between Israel and Iran, that Israel is so literally hell bent on destroying them.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that it's similar to the prophecies, right? Like the prophecy that occurred with Abraham, and how he had sex with his maid because he was uncertain that his wife was going to be able to bear children at old age. And so he went ahead and got to biblically know his maid, and then she produced Ishmael. And God said, there will be enmity between your two lines, between those two nations. People will say, peace, peace, and there will never be peace. Audrey Lynn, go ahead.
What this reminds me is what I came across recently is it was a Protestant priest in either the 16 or 1700s who took it upon himself to publish his beliefs that the recorded history of the Jewish people was a prophecy and not a history. And so this is where Protestantism has taken us, in that American evangelical, basically Christian Zionists, believe that it is imperative that that this history, that which is history, not prophecy, be fulfilled as prophecy. And so that's what they're doing, is that they are pushing to have all of these events unfold in a very particular fashion to make it appear as though prophecy is being fulfilled, when it's not. It's history being repeated. I mean, look at Trump. Trump came in as in his first term as, somebody who was without stain, without flaw. Then he was persecuted with double impeachment trials and his tax evasion trials and all these things, and he was purported to be found not guilty, when that's not necessarily the case. But that's led to that being similar to what Jesus is, that we are told that he went through, that he was persecuted unduly and found to be stain free and all this jazz. So the people, because they don't know their history, because we don't have an accurate Bible that is in the original language and the correct translation of those words into modern day English, we are led astray. We have no idea what that book means. And so it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and blah, 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 blah. So if that's true, then everything else must be true too. And it's not. I just recently found out that the Psalms are not songs of praise and worship and love. They are war songs.
Yeah, that whole region is absolutely geared and engineered, programmed for war. It always has been, for millennia. Yeah. And Iran arguably is the most evolved in that sense, seeking peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, great contemplation. See, way more important than the charts. To me, that's where the essence of this is. Thank you everybody for adding so much. Related to all that, though, is gold. We have the world itself is accumulating. All of the nations are accumulating gold right now, knowing that the renegotiation of energy contracts is imminent. I mean, when we have, since 2014, Iran even leading the way in negotiating energy contracts without the US dollar, without the petrodollar. Nations have been repatriatizing their gold. And that's why we've seen the escalation in the price. Like, this price action is unprecedented. Gold has never risen at this rate, ever, except right before the 1980s. This is a direct result. Let's go back even to the weekly chart so we can zoom out and really look at this. We can see that there was that, in the 70s, there was that acceleration. But that even then, this acceleration here resulted in a 786% increase across 1,200 days. 786 across 1,200 days. But this latest run, this 200% increase across the 1,200 days, that 200% has never occurred. No, I should say. No, that is definitely a way bigger increase, isn't it? Never mind. Where was I going with that? There was something about this, the comparison of this. There was something about this that I noticed the other day. That depegging. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to drop that topic because there I can't remember what that was. 700 across 1,200 days there, and there was something here about this 1,200 days that was different. Yeah, can't remember. All I do know is that since Iran had made that choice, and that was 2014-ish, right in this area here, this rise has been mostly a result of nations repatriatizing their gold, bringing it back home, making sure that they're ready. Because the energy crisis that we are headed into, as manufactured as it is it's kind of like that natural response. It's almost like that consolidation effect, the energy buildup, is resulting in the necessity for nations around the world to renegotiate all of these energy contracts. Because that's really what it boils down to. Countries, their job, in order to maintain their own little metaverses within the video game, in order for them to maintain those subscriber bases within their metaverse video games, require energy, simply because that's the big promise of government. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to be able to have energy, and it's going to be cheap, and you're not going to have to spend so many attention tokens. I mean, in-game currency. I mean, fiat. In order to be comfortable, in order to warm your homes, in order to protect you and your family against the elements and harsh reality of nature. That's our job, is to keep you safe. Their job is being reconfigured because of how energy itself is going to be consumed. When we have, the data centers that are being proposed, the energy consumption alone, I think I saw a figure that, by 2035, it's expected that the energy consumption of the globe's use of these data centers around the world will exceed the energy consumption of today. So we're going to double our energy consumption simply because of AI, and completely unnecessarily. In the Telegram channel there, I posted I think it was yesterday or the day before. Anastasia, I think is her name. She is a very, very world-renowned commentary on computer technology, being an engineer herself, a computer chip engineer. And she was talking about the extropic, the geothermal, or not geothermal, is that the word?
Thermodynamic.
Thermodynamic. Thank you. The thermodynamic chips that are far more superior in compute, especially for things like AI. And that, that 10,000 times less energy will be consumed as a result of those chips.
And yet that makes me think of all the innovations that have happened just in the 20th century that have gone, that have been, we don't have them.
Yep.
In favor of the inefficient, expensive, archaic technology that we have today.
Controllable.
Control, exactly. Regulatable.
Right.
You know, it's like I didn't know this until recently. I'm working with a client right now that does CHP, which is combined heat and power units, CHP, where they can create a unit for people, and it's an investment, but it will generate heat and electricity from natural gas. And the efficiency of this unit is so great that, you know, a home with an attached shop, you know, think of an 80-foot by 120-foot shop that is, you know, on the side of this of a farmstead, or rather I should say a house on a piece of land. The two buildings will consume anywhere between, you know, $800 to $1,500 worth of electricity per month. But this CHP unit can produce heat and electricity to supply both of those establishments, plus have excess to sell back to the grid. So now you have a unit of power that generates power and heat and profit, all in one unit. They are illegal in every jurisdiction except Alberta and Texas. So yeah, controllable, regulatable energy is what this is about. How do we make it so that by all means necessary, the people have to rely on our attention tokens for their energy? Maureen, thank you so much for joining. Anyway, so gold itself. I mean, you know, this is why we talk about the gold silver ratio so much. Yeah, it's one thing to look at those charts and say, okay, you know, the price of gold and silver, it's going up, you know, on average, it's going crazy. But the reality of the situation is that we're valuing gold and silver off of a standard that's obsolete. This is why we've been looking more at the ratios of things, even so much as looking at the US 30 and saying, well, yeah, but we see how much it's worth against the dollar, but how much is it against gold and silver? Actual hard, verified assets that actually stand the test of time. And as much as the economy has been showing, you know, a great significant increase in value, it's actually decreasing in value overall. Going into Bitcoin dominance here, this is the chart that we're really paying attention to when it comes to the cryptos, simply because with this transition, we can say that, you know, the way that this is going, Bitcoin is the biggest consumer of energy. That's why it's the gold standard of the digital currencies, because it consumes the most energy. In fact, how much? Well, when we take a look at the price of Bitcoin, sitting now at about 66,000, today 66,800. This price range, people are like, wow, that's expensive. Yeah, to mine one Bitcoin costs $40,000 of electricity. So they're making only $26,000. A miner is only making $26,000 off of his $40,000 investment. That's good. That's a good investment, right? Except not everybody gets a Bitcoin. So there's a lot of investment going in, and a lot of people, like, when it comes right down to it, if you're mining, that's great, but you've got costs, and that cost is electricity. And being the most inefficient form of currency in the world right now. Because you think about it, it's a lot cheaper to make a dollar than it is to mine a Bitcoin. You can just click a button and a dollar gets printed. With this here, you have to mine it. It's a finite resource. So this is the least efficient means of currency that you can possibly imagine in the digital space. So of course, it's going to be the most regulated. Why do you think that it was in the beginning? Let's go back to the daily chart here. We'll go back to the green arrow. This green arrow is when they started issuing ETFs, futures, the same fraud that they committed against silver and gold through futures contracts, not the actual not the actual physical silver and gold. No. The contracts for future prices on silver and gold. That's what they sold. A Ponzi scheme.
What time frame was that on the silver and gold that they did that?
Oh, they started selling futures on gold and silver back in the 70s.
Okay. Newbie.
Yeah. And it definitely. And no problem. Thank you. Good question, because I don't think I've actually ever said that on market analysis. Excuse me.
Paul, what is the impact of electricity when if Elon Musk has the much freer electricity on the satellite system? Is that going to be an impact on the cost of electricity and therefore on Bitcoin or any kind of?
I am so glad that you brought this topic up, because there is a big update on that, and I did not write it down. The notion of putting data centers and electricity generation up in space is actually an impossibility. And here's why. Cooling. I was under the impression at first, when I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, of course it makes sense to put these data centers up in space, because then you have to spend less in cooling. I mean, that's why so many data centers, even American companies, are buying data centers in Canada. And in fact, the ratio of data centers in Canada to Canadians is astronomically huge compared to the number of data centers going into the States. Simply because it's colder up here. They don't have to spend as much money on cooling because we get frigid winters. They call it global warming, and it's like, no, we get like minus 60. It's not unheard of to have a winter where it reaches minus 60 in Canada. Somewhere. Minus 40 is like, it gets balmy at that point sometimes. So it made sense to me. Data centers need to go, and electricity, let's do it up in space. Well, here's the thing. Space is a vacuum. Means there's no air. So if you put a computer chip up there, you got to have air around it so that you can cool the air around the computer chips. So you go ahead and put a data center up in space, and as soon as you turn it on, it's going to burn out. Why? Because it's in a vacuum. That's a huge, expansive update to me, and I'm thinking to myself, Elon's got to know that. So when he said that that's what he was going to do, he was, again, stringing the line. We need some more attention tokens. Let's put these things up in space.
Well, and what you'd have to do is create an atmosphere.
Right. Well, that's going to cost more than the electricity you would need to cool it.
Yeah, I have no idea what any of it is. That's just coming out of my mouth.
Isn't that something? You'd have to seal those things and bring air with you, and then have it circulate and cool, so that you're still spending cooling. And in fact, because of the temperature fluctuations, because there is a temperature fluctuation in space, that's why, there's Earth, the atmosphere of Earth actually creates a barrier from that temperature fluctuation in space. When there's sun, it's like 200 degrees out there. When there's no sun, it's like minus 200. So the fluctuation is so great that even if if you have that environment, you've got a lot of work to do when the sun comes out. You've got to cool it down even more than you would have to on Earth.
How did the satellites work? They don't have to do that with the satellites, or is it in case? I have no idea. I'm just like,
Yeah,
there has to be some.
that's all airtight.
Uh, would that be the solution then to the Musk's would be airtight?
That'd be a
Does air-
fascinating engineering experiment.
Yeah, 'cause-
I'm quite
yeah.
confident. I don't see it being cheaper because I mean you got to launch that stuff up there. You got to and the way that I look at it, Elon has already accomplished what he needs to accomplish with Skynet. I mean Starlink. All of those little satellites are like nodes for the data that gets transmitted in that network.
Is that
Like-
like dinging off of them? Bung. Is that how it
Yep,
it's
you
aimed at
betcha.
it? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and we're the ones that create the data. We're the generators because we have to subscribe, right? Oh, I got to get the internet, and so then you get the little panel there, the Starlink panel. That's so that you can generate it, right? If you don't have that, then there is no uplink, there is no pinging. So we're the pingers. We're the ones, and every time we push a button, there's another ping. And I'm of the mind that the more that, especially within our community, the more that we can show people the principles necessary to self-govern our data, the less reliant we are on the systems like Bitcoin. Bitcoin requires astronomical amounts of energy. Astronomical. And just in contrast, let's just bring up AI for a second. In contrast, when AI first came out, the energy consumption of a token, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but the energy consumption of tokens, which is the unit of compute that is measured, that's the term that they use to measure the unit of compute for AI. The energy consumption on tokens since 2022 has dropped over 10,000. It's 100,000 times reduction in the consumption of energy per token, simply because they're getting more efficient. They're getting better at computing. They're getting smarter. So it doesn't take as much electricity, as much current necessary to produce those tokens. So why are we like Bitcoin to me, like I get why people are excited about it. I get why there are people who have diamond hands hanging on to Bitcoin, and I am not saying that they're wrong for doing it. However, why would you base a monetary system off of a product that equivalently is archaic as the energy production systems that we've been using for the last 250 years? We don't need to generate electricity in the way that we're generating electricity today. We don't need to generate tokens in the same form that we've been generating them as we do today. It's an archaic technology. It was a great experiment and it worked wonders. But when you take into consideration that when you start decentralize, because that's the other thing, is that the nature of Bitcoin has required the centralization of mining. It's on a distributed ledger. Sure, it's a decentralized cryptocurrency. Sure, but you have a centralization of the people who can mine it. And now there are very few companies that have mining facilities capable of mining it. So of course you're going to put an ETF on it, an exchange traded fund on it, just like you did with gold and silver, so that you can regulate it and come out with a genius act to regulate it. That act was genius, by the way. And so, going back to gold and silver, these contracts have been leveraged 300 to 1. For every ounce of gold that is above ground and in a form that can be traded, refined and all that stuff, every ounce of gold that is in physical reality has been sold 300 times. Bitcoin.
It puts fractionalized banking to shame.
Oh, yeah. The fractionalized
9
banking
or 10
model.
times, maybe 13 now. What about 300?
Yep. The ETFs, that green arrow, coming back to this, that's when they started issuing the Ponzi scheme tokens, ETFs, on Bitcoin at a rate of 6% more than Bitcoin can physically be mined. How much longer is that going to last? When is it going to be 300? Because if we're letting them do it with 6%, how long is it going to take? How long will Americans, the world, how long will the populace allow that before they clue in and say, oh, we should probably self-govern our currencies? Like we should do it with our data, like we should do it with our lives, like we should do it with our equity, like we should do it with our wealth, like we should do it with our relationships.
And our health.
And the list goes on. Who would have thought market analysis would be like this? I listened to market analysis my parents forced me to listen to it, not because they said I had to, but I grew up with the radio on basically all the time. And the radio would squawk away on all of the market prices all the time. And I remember thinking to myself when I started market analysis, I don't want it to be boring like that. I'm not going to be covering the prices of wheat. Because that was 630 CHED. And Audreylin's like, yep, I heard that too. Ethereum is not coming back yet to this long-term trend line. Fascinating to me. Now, it very well may just be that that's what's going on. If we draw that line a little bit more generically, we can see that it touched. But if we go right straight to the technical, where we bring that to the points, we can see that there is some room yet for Ethereum to come and test this trend line here. And despite the economic uncertainty that is occurring in the traditional world, like, think about it for a second. Here in this last, let's go to the daily. Yeah, this is the daily chart. Actually, let's go to the 4-hour because then it gives us a little bit more detail. And we can also see that, it was the start of March, right here. That there was the start of the war. And we're up. This is Ethereum. Go to the US 30, and the start of the war was right here. Considerably down. So the lack of certainty in the markets have not translated to a lack of certainty in cryptos. There's Bitcoin. Now it's down a little bit from the beginning of March. Is it? No, it's pretty much right where it was. Look at that.
Is there
Right there.
is there a possibility, Paul, to overlay some of these charts on top of each other?
Not with TradeView.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that would be amazing. That would be amazing. So the instability that we're seeing in the markets are not being reflected in cryptos, which is a good sign. That means that the things are in place for that. And I think that that speaks to how this transition will occur, right?
Paul, I have a question here with that's
Yeah.
made me kind of, my gears are going. And
Yeah.
it's like, the comment that it takes $30,000 of electricity to produce one Bitcoin. I'm sure that hasn't gone by the wayside with other investors and, market movers. Uh, there has to be, I mean, for me, is there any? I guess that's the question. Uh, what is the movement toward in a more recyclable way? Is it quartal? Is it midnight? Is it, do they cost the same amount to make one coin, or is it
Mm,
just Bitcoin? And what is the, um, say at the beginning of electricity, Tesla wanted to give free Wi-Fi to everybody, right? And to be available to everybody. And I mean, there's that. It's a reality, really. It's a dimension of reality where that was definitely a movement when electricity was first distributed. So, and then Edison didn't want to do that because he wanted to make money, right? I mean, I may not have all the facts there, but that's kind of how my mind is going. So, say, when you were saying like, and then here's another thought pattern coming in, bringing another kind of dimension of reality of individuals having and communities having their own satellite system.
yep.
So when you refer to like, when are we going to take back the power of this? And I know this is leaping across a lot of time experiences and growth evolution for the human being. Is that where you see this going, like free electricity, or will it be made in another way, or is some other way out there? What are the pundits saying that I know I haven't heard anything, but maybe you have, and or is that even a possibility? So I guess that's my.
Great question. I think that we are going to see the necessity of self-generation of electricity simply because it's going to get out of hand. If we're supposed to be doubling today's consumption of energy within the next 9 years, it's going to become necessary that we become co-generators. Really. And when you take a look at the model that's coming forward with stake pools, that's a co-generation of transactions. It's a co-generation of the ledger. The ledger itself can only be generated for Bitcoin. The ledger can only be generated by miners, and that's centralizing because it's becoming less and less affordable. And by the way, a point of order, Maureen, it's not $30,000 per Bitcoin. It's $40,000 worth of Bitcoin. And those numbers were from like 3-4 years ago. So inflation has made it considerably more. Audrey Lynn.
With the whole thing of electricity costs and self-generation, I see it that people who don't have the capacity for self-generating electricity will be the not even the poor, but the ultra poor, because the cost of electricity will be so expensive.
Yeah.
Because of these AI centers and what they're absorbing. So if one does not have the capacity to produce their own, to generate their own electricity, they're going to be a heap of hurt.
Yeah, and this goes back to the two parallel tracks. We're going to have the old reality continue its momentum because there's people who are, that's what their destiny is, to maintain the system. And then there's going to be people like us who innovate and who explore new ideas. Like when it comes to the co-generation of energy, I can't wait to see Gary's work. Like Gary within our community is working on building gasifiers. And once he's got a system down where he's able to duplicate that across several instances, he wants to do that for people. Well, you can take, coal, which is, over by Devon, There, you can go down to the river over by Devon, literally scoop your hand into the sand of the riverbed, and you pull out shale, coal shale that you can go and burn in a furnace. It's that abundant. The unregulated sales of coal that are, which by the way, again, humanity, by the laws of nature, has the right to go and retrieve that coal for energy. That allows people to sell it. The rate at which you can sell it on the unregulated market is $60 a ton. And it's expected that you can burn enough to heat your home. You can use less than 2 tons of coal for the entire year. Well, wait a second. If you turn that into a gasifier, now you have heat and electricity with less than 2 tons of coal per year. But you got to build it. You got to build your node. I mean, gasifier. Right? And another point of question, I had to write it down so that I wouldn't forget. Maureen, you asked, what are the other coins? How do the other coins compare in generating? Like, how much energy do you have to generate to do these other coins? Well, you can always tell how much it is by the transaction fees. Because the transaction fees are used to pay for the electricity on every one of those transactions, right? That's why some of the transaction fees on Bitcoin, if we go like this, we push buttons on these little apps and stuff like that, but it's all being handled by exchanges. But that the difference between a buy and a sell price in actuality at the raw market value, you're looking at $50, $60 a transaction, regardless of the size of the transaction. In Ethereum, when you are in high market volatility or high volume transaction market space, in 2021, transaction fees were $200. And it didn't matter. You could move $5. Your transaction fee was $200. And that was because it's not decentralized enough. That's why people like Charles Hoskinson said when he was working with Ethereum, and he was one of the pioneers in Bitcoin as well. He said, we have to do something different here. This is going to get out of hand. Ethereum is not something that should be used. It's a great evolution, proof of stake versus proof of work. It's a great evolution, but let's improve upon that. And Ethereum was like, no, go away. We don't like what you have to say. And so then they did. They went away and they built something better, ADA, because that token was completely decentralized. In fact, still today, even after 11 years of development, Cardano is still the most decentralized cryptocurrency on the planet, simply because you can't generate it without a stake pool. And stake pools are only allowed, you can't make a stake pool bigger than 32 million ADA. And the reason they did that was to incentivize the decentralization. So ADA, when generating it, is what was the numbers? It was like 8,000 or something like that. It was high number of degrees of how much cheaper it was. But again, that was years ago. And the more decentralization there is, the cheaper it is in electricity, because it's being done by the individual. Once we start doing cogeneration strategies, like what I was talking about before, it becomes even cheaper. Why? Because the CHP unit generates enough electricity for yourself and enough to sell back to the grid. So you're profiting off of the energy. You're actually making money.
So Paul, I want to know what the dream is, in the sense of what is it that we see as the ultimate good in this whole transfer of wealth and optimum function and use and does how it's distributed? Is it the like midnight or quartile where everyone that has a share, no matter how many shares you have, gets a vote? So there's a sense of equal participation. What is the dream that I want to put my attention on the dream in the sense of, having this intention to move to at least, move toward, or at least, I don't even know, but to verbalize and to give it mass, if nothing else than with my words, with the attention and the words, so that I can look at it and give it energy. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah.
making sense?
Yeah, you're doing it, Maureen. You are already doing it. Look at the work with the Dragon Riders.
Right. So I want to be more concrete than that. I want to be, what is it going to replace Bitcoin for everybody? Where will everybody be supported in a way that promotes health, vitality? What else would you say? Health, vitality, and equal participation. I don't even know. I don't even know how to name it. But I get it. We're on the baby steps. But it's like, okay, Bitcoin is like that. And I want to like kind of move that over to the side. Do you know what I mean? Market analysis. How can we give our attention to that which we want to increase? Attention, appreciation, whatever that is, that old. I mean, we're being asked to do that by Oracle Girl.
Right.
She's asking us to move, keep our dream, put our energy there. So Ron and I are looking at our dream, just to, how do we want to live? What do we value? I don't know. I'm just trying to like transplant that and put that template here. Oh, Audrey, do you have something to say?
It's what comes for me is, what is it that you value? That is what the dream is. And only you can determine what you value. So as we all turn towards, focus on, open to that which we value, and bring that value into our communities, into our relationships with each other, then we build the dream together.
What is the action step out of that? What is the natural movement that comes out of a shared value of openness, transparency? One of my values is to use as little as possible. I don't know how to say this in a positive way. It's like, I try to keep my my cost of living way small, because I don't want to need a lot in order to live day to day. So how can I conserve? It's like when you walk in the forest, you make it better than when you left. Sort of like I don't even know how to translate that, but
it is by our example.
Exactly. But I want the action steps.
But you are doing action steps by valuing to consume just what you need right now.
You're creating
instead of grasping and clawing and clutching at, in fear of the thing that is ephemeral, that we can't control. What I hear you doing is valuing. You are already exemplifying what you value, and to let that shine more obviously, to mentor younger people in your community as to what your values are, and have these conversations with younger people so that they can say, hey, yeah, I really resonate with what Maureen says about living within my means, and giving back into community, and being of service to my fellow being. I see those as very actionable steps.
The thing that I'm hearing is, in this money, I think, is one of the most tangible ways that we can start practicing what you're saying, Maureen. it goes back to the nodes. In what way can you create another node within your life? Whether it's energy, whether it's finance, relationships, health. Zoe, you brought up health. That was great. In what ways can we exercise more self-responsibility over these areas of our lives? Because that is another way that you create a node, a self-governing center.
Right. And how can I want the financial system, I want to include that. Too often it is not included.
Right. And in answer to that, there isn't the ideal token for that. Everybody needs to go out and find their own or create it if it doesn't exist. And this is why for the last 3-4 years, people have approached me and said, "Oh, what do you think about this coin?" Or "What do you think about that coin?" And the first thing that I look for when I'm evaluating the plausibility of a coin is it interoperable?
I want to write this down, Paul. I mean, I've heard you say this. How easily can it move through the system from
Yeah.
inception to actual purchase and the value and all those different things? Because this is my belief. My belief is if we can concretize what we want in a financial system, that it gathers mass and reality. And even if we don't do it, somebody else whose instruction it is to do it will pick up on something maybe they wouldn't have picked up in another amorphous state. We make it more and more concrete. More and more people will be able to reach with what turns them on and wakes them up. And just like the guys that invented midnight, to meet a need. So what do we need? What do we need so somebody can respond to it? Maybe it's me. Maybe it is me. It is me in my small way. But that's what I see I can do. Now, I didn't really formulate that before.
And I again go back to, you're already doing it. Like
Well,
with what's going on with Dragon Riders, that's becoming a node. And that central node becomes something that you work on the outside of it to create another one and to create another one. And it grows outward from there.
Remember how Marcia, all of a sudden, she was so disconnected when the last time we talked?
Yeah.
She was very disconnected and said, I don't see the reason for this. Then all of a sudden, somebody else said something.
Yes.
And Marcia got connected. That's what I mean, to have a discussion about it. And you're asking us for Sunday to come on and talk about our goals. I forget. I call it dreams. What you're asking us to see. What is it we want? I mean, aren't you Sunday? Isn't that why you? I mean, I remember you saying that.
That's what Sundays are about. It's about bringing us closer to what you want as a community.
And then this time you asked us to, I'm not on that page right now, so I can't access it.
Yeah.
My mind does not switch like that. I have to pause and meditate for a while. And then all of a sudden, if it's ready, it will come and let me know. That's kind of how my mind's working now. So, but it's been happening because it's purifying. To me, it's purifying the more attention we give to it. But, see, I want you guys to live next door.
Don't we?
Well, yeah, in a way.
In a way. You sound as clear as if you're next door.
Well, I feel your energy. Don't get me wrong. And I can call your energy here. And I do, and on the calls. But it's like, if someone knows this about group kind of thing, it's the emergence of what emerges from the group.
Yeah, and see, I see what emerges from here is now there is a Maureen in Orange County that is a light in the darkness, and that is another node of what we've started.
And does she cook and make bacon and eggs, or No,
what concern is that? She is still a light.
Yeah.
No, it's true. But I want somehow I want to be able to ground that, to anchor in my body that. And maybe that's the dream. It's like the prayer that Oracle Girl gave us, it's my greatest wish for you that you know who you are. It's my greatest wish for you that you that you know peace in your body. It is my greatest wish for you that you are moved by the beauty of this existence. It is, so those things, can I anchor that? And it's my greatest wish for you that you embody pure love. What a prayer. It's like, it's like, yes, that's my dream. And not for me, but for you, for you
Yes.
to have that kind of movement toward the world. Anyway, so is going in and out, but she knows, where is she? I can see the corner of her face. Oh, there she is.
Looks like she's making lunch.
And you guys and I made my breakfast, so I get it. But you guys are already, you're manifesting this. I love it, what you're doing, Audrey. I really love it. Audrey Lynn? I get confused. You're going to the marketplace. You know what I mean? You're selling your product. You're using this system. I just think that's so wonderful. It's so inspiring to know that it can be done. And I'm not saying there aren't problems. I know that nothing exists without, hurdles or perfection. Really, it's perfecting it.
Yes. That process of perfection has rough edges that get refined as you practice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would see now here. I'm not happy with myself not doing that. So I got to stop that. That's like, okay.
You are doing it in the ways. Yeah. And you are doing it. That's the thing. You're comparing your doing it with Audrey Lynn's doing it. And that's just unreasonable.
Well, and it's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a perpetuation of a lie. So, I totally get that, but I find myself doing that. So that's the purification. It's continually purifying that I'm here to do what I can do, what my energy system naturally unfolds and does.
Mm-hmm.
And Audrey and Zoa and you, Paul, you doing what you naturally do, your energy system is doing. And we just have to see, that's why I have to get out of the way of saying, oh, I should be better. And then, okay, block.
Mm-hmm.
But your questions are part of your currency.
Yes, they are. My curiosity.
Yeah. And what that does in the synergy of a group.
Mm-hmm.
There's a value to it when you're off in the trees or in your garden or whatever, in your own self. Then you also bring that to a group, and that's what it brings forth.
Yeah, just like Marcia did.
Yeah.
Her question, she was being authentic in the group, and that's what the group needed is to have that kind of question come forward so that we could take another little leap and anchor. So I totally agree with that. And it settles me more into that, and it anchors it more when you say that. And it anchors not only for me, but for whoever I'm with, whatever I look at, and creates greater mass. That's more. So that's really what, I don't want to use the word what, I choose. I choose from whatever the highest part of me.
Oh, that sounds different.
Yeah, I want to choose.
That's so different when you say that. When you go from I want to I choose, I just felt that. That's good.
Yeah. I choose to live like that.
Mm-hmm. And this mass that you're naming and calling in and embodying is also a currency. And I mean currency, like the river flows is a currency, right? Like currencies of care, but I hear that comparison thing is like, that comparison is based on a paradigm that we are separating from. It's like, oh, you're doing things in the market. You're putting things in jars, or maybe I'm sorry, I don't know quite. I don't remember. Paul has praised it, but it hasn't quite landed for me. But it's like, oh, there's a label, there's an exchange, there's so that's what counts, and it's good. At least some of us need to find some way to do that. Just like, because that's one form, but it's not the only form. So your questions and your curiosity and you're like, I want math, damn it. That is a currency.
Because the stuff in the jars and the bottles, that's in the physical. And we have been trained that the
Right.
physical is what matters, as opposed to this exchange in between the five of us here as being, oh, well, it's just
Just an online gathering. That's all we're doing.
yeah.
Just a little
Someone
chat.
said to me, if what you do is if you just hold space for me, that would be great. And my thought is, oh my God, you have no idea how much you just diminished what I'm capable of doing, because I can hold space really, really well. And I don't know how to monetize that, or even if that's appropriate to monetize. And holding space is for me a profound event. Just as, oh, well, on par with coffee.
It is a rare jewel
Thank you.
to be able to do that, or to just speak authentically like we're doing right now. This to me is like, talk about the gold frequency,
Mm.
you know, and the rare beauty of that, and really what it's all about. And it's nice to have it. For so long in my growing up, this was never valued. So I always felt, what is that word? When you defend it. There's a word, apologize. There's an apology that where you defend your position, because I was not in a world. And now, I mean, for the last, really, since I've been 50, that's the only worlds that I've been in, pretty much, is worlds that recognize that as important. So yeah, it really is a shift in me or something, I don't know. But thank you for saying all of that. That made, I can feel and what I want it to be is anchored in here. I want it to, yeah, that's it.
More mass, damn it.
It's like you throw a stone in the water, right, and it lands, and then all this other gunk, the sand and all that kind of stuff comes in.
Well, now I'm reflecting on like what Paul's bringing, and you shared today, like you grew up with the radio going and the market analysis going. I didn't have that, right? Something's echoing.
Yeah, I'll
There we
just
go.
mute.
Okay,
There you go.
but I said that thing, like if you're bringing your curiosity to the garden or to the woods, Maureen, it's still a value. And I'm just thinking, I just had this image of Paul with his chalkboard out in the forest going, well, if we look at here and the arrow's pointing down and the thing is coming up and China's doing this and Iran has been planning for a long time. It's like, I don't know what the trees would do with that. I can't speak for the trees. But there's a value when you bring it to us who have, in whatever way that we've been able to or not able to navigate this paradigm, this matrix. There's a different value because again, you're bringing whatever you came in on and whatever you've lived through to this moment, and then we come together, and things happen that wouldn't happen individually. I know it's a really basic point I'm making. Wherever two or more are gathered,
Yeah.
things,
The quantum entanglement of each one of us,
mm-hmm.
the worlds that we have all it's like you're saying just what and the way I envision it is like in a different way. We're bringing, or different words, but we're bringing all the quantum entanglement we have to this moment, and they're being shared. All five of us here are sharing our quantum entanglement
in an embodied way.
Yes.
Because, there are many people, Paul, that can talk about the market, and I could probably get my brain hooked in and fascinated by some of them, a few of them, maybe, I don't know. But you're not just doing that. You're also speaking from having, made a shift in 2008 at great cost, it sounds like, in terms of how things have been, family relationships, home, housing, all those things. And so you're when you're coming, you're sharing, and then we're also sharing from this energy of like, what's possible, what's new, what's new and old, right? So we're not just doing a market analysis. Today's been a really good case in point, clearly not just looking at the charts. And yet the charts are this interesting form of mirror. If we talk about Jacqueline, it's like if everything's a mirror and everything's purification, the charts are great because we can all look at it and kind of go, oh yeah, what's that? Oh, what's that about? Oh, that thing went up and down. Wow.
Almost an excuse so that we can come together for these higher conversations.
Yeah.
I always find the charts to be a catalyst for greater insight than what is shown on the charts. Absolutely.
And I could go to YouTube and there's probably, I don't know how many people talk about charts on YouTube, just on YouTube alone, not counting, not Ramble, whatever it's called, all the different, platforms. But would they also be doing this, or would they just talk about, 6.2 went to 9.7 and 3.4 and the Dow and the blah, blah, blah.
Well, and most market analyses are exactly that. They are just going through the numbers and making projections and predictions and so on and so forth. And I don't mind. It's kind of fun to do, right? But again, I'm looking for a deeper insight than just what the squiggly lines tell us. The squiggly lines are.
You do that, Paul. You go to the depth of what is. I mean, not all the time. You go. Sometimes you do the surface kind of thing, but you tell us what was founded. What was this organization founded on? And look at the white page, and you bring in things of value that are. What is this coin's value? What is the way to regard this? And it's an expansion of a world, really, it's like a thin line to me. It's like expanded. So expanded to have a better, I'm going to say a more useful, more integrative way of putting it into my whole system rather than just a line up here that goes in a narrow pathway. So I really appreciate that. I really do. Plus, it's the guide to the new way of life from a much younger person who was born for a different, fulfillment in time. And I really appreciate that. And every person that talks, or shares and just gives their openness to this, I really appreciate. I love coming on these calls. I really do. I always have.
Well,
And I miss you when you're not here.
There you go. Yeah, when you show up, it's like, oh, Maureen is here.
Now we can talk about important things.
Well, and you just think of the challenge of what we're navigating now. And to be able to have, like Paul, for you to translate, because these are points where, the 3 baby bears in the wrong time at the river, they get swept away. We are those baby bears as well. And it's like but it's not the waves of nature, it's the waves of this agenda. It's the tightening of the blah, blah, and it's like, I feel so different since I joined and started with this, started more directly interacting with you. Not that I understand what the path is forward, but I feel like there is one. And we're going to craft it together. It's not like, some of things, and you can see ahead and you can kind of go, oh, we can kind of prepare people for this or that. But a lot of it, none of us know. But there's like this, like, okay, but we're all tuned into different things, and we can bring that to these conversations, and then something. Whereas before it's just like, well, no wonder I haven't navigated this part of the matrix well. Because it's
so well
based
said.
on criminal, harm, pedophilia. Just like, and worse, worse forms of that. And it's just like, I had the brain to be financially savvy when I was younger. I was very interested in that. And then like things happened in my life, and I'm glad I didn't just go that brain route. But we do like need each other, you know, in this, you know, there's this like, she talks about the timeline splitting, but it's also like there's things coming crashing together.
Together as well. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, whoa. I've been all tuned in the last few days. Things were really heavy for me or thick or whatever for 3 weeks or something. Like I really got stuck and paralyzed. And it's not that I'm out of that, but I'm coming out of it. And so then I'm feeling this energy of like, what's possible? And not in a Pollyanna way, but I'm just feeling the energy of it. And then last night before I go to bed, I read about, you know, the draft starting up April 20th. It's like, wait, don't we get isn't there a debate on that? Isn't there a public conversation? It's just like, no, 17, that's what I mean, crash it, you know, it's like, what the hell?
Personally, I think those people who ought to be in the front of the line of conscription are the people who vote for it and their families to the third level. So if dad gets it, then his nephews and blah, blah, blah underneath are conscripted first, and then the rest of the people. So all those bureaucrats and all those politicians, they experience the potential loss of their families first.
Before they start signing orders to sign others.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm not even going to go there because I don't even think that the responsibility, well, I think everybody has a responsibility, but I think the real responsibility is the money makers and how they're manipulating everything to, you know, so like, and I don't know. So there's always this thing of, I don't know, but I want to say that I love what you said about navigating the path and about the fullness of the navigation. And also I just want to bring conscious choice, that even with as little as I know, there's a conscious choice that I didn't have before. From coming and learning about this in a way, you know, even just being introduced and getting a little bit of what's going on and from your point of view, Paul, but you try to give more than one point of view, and you try to you do it, you show us the patterns and, you know, that kind of the objective thing. And it's just about bringing consciousness to the patterns of my own pattern of greed and fear. Like looking at that, when does that move me? And when can I recognize it so I don't have to encourage that movement? You know what I mean? So, and it would be an area that I've always been very adept at, is numbers and figuring it out. And what I was taught was how to get out of, how to squiggle out of, how to use the system. And that really is not helpful. What's the best way to, you know, make a plan? You know, it is helpful in some ways. I shouldn't say that, but I don't want to use the system. I want to create a new one. I want to act from my center, from my core. I want to act to move, to let the beauty of this existence move me. That's what I want to do. I mean, can that happen? Can that happen? You know, so I just, big question mark. Can that happen? Can I be moved by the beauty of this existence?
Your desire for it is evidence that it can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want that to grow, because no matter what happens, I want to have it be within that context of the beauty of this existence, and take its relatively importance, you know, from that perspective. Of course, that's an evolutionary thing as well, you know, to purify to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in these times, like, oh my God, you know, just being terrified and really looking at fear and a thought came to me. Can I take care of what fear says? Fear has a message, and my whole system is now, this is the alignment. This is what needs to happen. I'm getting like this.
Mm.
So, but I don't feel any of that in the financial system. I don't feel any kind of hit on what to go with. I don't really know. I take your intuition, Paul, and I trust your intuition. Now, you can be just as wrong as me because that's not how the world goes. But I do that. You have a lot of, when you say, and the values, when you explain the values of like Ada, then I go, okay, that's where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to support. So that's how important that discussion of values and what their goals are and their history. That's why it's so important, I think. Midnight and they want to do that. They want to increase the sense of privacy when it's being taken away every place you go. And the threat of not having the digital ID, and you're not going to be able to do anything if you don't have. Somebody told me, who was it? Somebody said they had to get a digital ID in order to get the passport. That's what it was, to travel. I don't know where that's going. I see us all living in these high rises and little bitty cubicles, and them telling us, no, you can't have a window, but you can have a light. You can have an artificial light, but no real light.
An LED light.
Yeah, an LED light.
That'll shorten your vision and give you mental health issues.
Yeah. Screw up your circadian rhythm, period. Yeah, so it's like, oh my God, is that our future? Ooh, that's depressing.
For many it is.
Mm.
And it is, and like there's the heartbreaking. That we have writings that depict how heartbreaking it was. Jesus. It's even mentioned in the Bible that Jesus wept as he stood on. He was sitting on the side of a hill overlooking Jerusalem. He wept, saying, "Would that you know the things that make for peace." They have no concept of the destruction that they are self-imposing upon themselves by complying. And that's saddening. And it's also important to remember, and I think it was you, Maureen, or someone on Sunday said that, that everyone is purifying. There's nobody exempt from the purification.
Judy was saying that. Yeah, that was a really good point.
I have to go back. My phone is overheating, and
and it is late, and I got chores.
We've got, and I'm complete. Thank you, everybody. As always, this is
so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Can I just check? Did I looked for co-working yesterday, and I went to 3 sites and I couldn't find it. So did I go to the wrong place, or did it not happen, or?
You did not miss it because it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to get you. Do you have Telegram on your phone?
No, I don't. I signed up for it somewhere, but I've never gone to it. I don't know where I signed up, but
not a problem. And
so you announced it there.
I did, yeah. And I'll have to. What's that, Maureen?
That would be so wonderful if at one point you would show us all how to operate telephone.
Oh, and I'm of the mind that once Nextcloud is up, then everybody within the Dragon Riders community will just get updates there.
Okay.
Because that will be the good spot.
But still, next gen will be on Telegram, though, right?
Yeah, but I want to migrate away from that anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to make
it
to
one place. I don't like checking 5 different things.
I've got too many already.
Yeah.
There's good things that I should be doing on Telegram, and I'm just like, sorry.
Not another one.